when we're sitting down having pregame Saturday, and we're going to talk about Penn State, and they'll probably at that time be an 8, 9-point fave. Where's the discussion going to start for you when we start to talk about what you appreciate about Penn State?
I think my first gut reaction is probably the same as a lot of people, and it's those two backs. I mean, they're so experienced and so good, and I think for the first time in a while have some confidence. Like, I think the way that Penn State's offense has had to kind of adapt without Aller has been interesting because, they don't have the X factor in Tyler Warren like they had last year. They've had to kind of get creative with their running game. And that's tough to do when you don't have a head coach, right? Like, I think there's some other variables at play here that it's made watching Penn State interesting because, there's a couple of outside moving parts. You lose your quarterback, you lose your head coach, and now it's kind of like, where do we go from here? I'm really interested and intrigued to see how Penn State comes out early, maybe the first 2 or 3 possessions against the Blackshirts, because I think that's going to be the easy tell. But a lot of times when we see things like this, like a Minnesota or a Wisconsin, what do they do that first drive? First play is usually a play action. They'll run a tight end across on a slide or, just an easy dump off to get Nebraska thinking something other than running game. So how they use those running backs, I think, to me, is going to be something that I'm watching very closely.
Ravi is contemplating, and I'll let him explain it, just these monumental meltdowns this morning. We were talking to Sam earlier because I said this, if Nebraska wins, this would, in my opinion, would be the most talented team that they'd had beaten. And, Ravi says, well, at some point, if they're so talented, when are they going to start playing like it? But he has an interesting kind of position about what we've used against Nebraska for 10 years versus why we're afraid of Penn State. Pose the same question a bit.
Yeah, I just don't understand. It seems like, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but from the people we've talked to, it seems like we're doing the exact same thing to Penn State to justify their record that we did when Nebraska's, the best 3-9 team of all time or whatever. And guess what? They were still 3-9. It still got the coach fired. It's still at some point the record has to matter. And we talked to Sam McEwen earlier today, and he goes, "Well, I bet Penn State would trade Big Ten schedules with Nebraska." And I was like, "Yeah, but they've played 3 common opponents. Nebraska's beat all of them, and Penn State's 1-2. So what do I do with that?" I get that they're probably more talented than Nebraska. I understand that. I also get that they're not even in the same neighborhood of talent as an Ohio State. And they're probably, at least you want to go by recruiting rankings, much closer to what Nebraska is than some of these other teams. And they've lost a lot. And at some point, the losing matters, right?
Yeah, I think it's more of a conversation than it is a question, because I think there's a lot of variables at play here, right? The schedule, certainly. Aller's injury, that completely changes the dynamic of a game. The emotional part of losing James Franklin, the stuff that we don't see when we watch tape, I think does have an influence on young men's psychology and their ability to perform. But I do also think that there's a difference. I think a lot of times when we assess teams and we do this kind of stuff and we look at tape compared to draft projections, there's a difference between talent and identity, right? When you look at talent, think of Mike Loxley's teams at Maryland. How many times have you walked in there going, shoot, Rakeem Jarrett, that's a 5-star, right? There's multiple guys that you look at and you go, that's an NFL player. That's an NFL player. That's an NFL player. It doesn't always mean they're good football teams, but the compilation of talent is there. You saw that a little bit with SC, right? Looking around at some of those guys, you're like, yeah, that guy's a Sunday guy. That guy's a Sunday guy. Their record's not necessarily indicative of the talent, but when you look at Penn State, and I'm going to sound like I'm talking out of the side of my mouth here because they don't have their head coach, but they were built to fulfill a certain identity. Penn State football, you know what you're getting when you're playing Penn State. You know what you're getting when you're playing Iowa. And I think a lot of times that leads to Sunday guys. Jack Campbell's a great example. You saw him last night in Detroit. Nobody saw his recruiting rankings out of high school and go, yep, that's a Sunday guy. But
he's incredible.
When you play the same system year over year and you get really, really good at what you do, and you get better every year, that makes you a draftable guy. So I think we're getting to the same destination. We're just taking a couple of different routes to get there. And I think that's why it requires maybe a little bit more conversation, because Penn State does have talent, like they do, right? Like they have a lot of players on their team that other schools in the country would love to have. That doesn't necessarily mean they can put it together for 60 minutes and execute snaps, but they do have guys that I think have the attention of scouts. And I mean, look no further than those running backs, right? Like they've had multiple guys in their front seven defensively that I'm like, man, sure be nice to have an Abdul Carter. Sure would be nice to have a couple of these dudes. So I do think it's a little tricky, but I do agree with you, Ravi, that, you know, just because they're talented doesn't mean Nebraska can't go in there and win on Saturday night.
So I've been going through just season-long team statistics, right? The only place that Penn State has any kind of significant advantage is rush yards per game on offense or defense. Would you like to guess how many more rush yards per game?
Are you factoring in strength of schedule?
No, this is just the whole season.
Okay.
Just whole season.
Okay.
Would you like to guess how many more yards per game Penn State has than Nebraska rushing the football?
Offensively, you mean?
Yeah.
It can't be much. I would say no more than 30.
It is 13.6 yards.
Yeah.
Penn State's 78, Nebraska's 90. That's the biggest gap. And listen, so I get the point, right? If you're looking at rosters and you're looking at draft prospects and things like that, maybe you take Penn State over any other team Nebraska's played this year, although I think Michigan has an argument. I think SC has an argument. But when you look at what's actually happened on a football field over the course of the season, and I get that some of the opponents have been harder for Penn State, they also played no one in the non-con. And you look at it and you go, okay, Nebraska has been better in almost every team category than Penn State this year. I don't know what to do with that except say 9.5 points seems like a lot.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, just playing devil's advocate, because you're on one right now. Damon, this is why Ravi and I.
Yeah, you guys, I tell you this, you're kind of the same person, except he's actually probably a little more mean-spirited, if you can believe that.
Let me ask you this, though. If you're a defensive coordinator coming into the year, where do you start with Penn State compared to where do you start with Nebraska? Like, when you're looking at Nebraska, you have Dillon, you have all these wideouts that, you know, they're really confident in. Your game plan probably starts there. You have an unproven guy at running back. Penn State, you've got 2 all-conference caliber running backs on your team. That's probably where you start and what you want to take away first, right? Or no?
I agree. And my answer would just be, and where has that gotten them? It's gotten them 13.5 more yards a game and 60 fewer passing yards per game than Nebraska. So I sit there and I go, yes, I would agree. Going into it, you want to stop passing game for Nebraska. You want to stop running game for Penn State. Well, you don't really have to worry about stopping passing game for Penn State because they kind of do that for you. And then the running game has been stoppable.
I think we're saying the same thing.
We might be. We very well might be. And now the only variable that I don't know what to do with is that both teams are playing with backup quarterbacks that are pretty recent additions, right? In terms of a lot of the stats that I'm talking about season long were with a different guy. So I don't totally know what to do with that, although I have to imagine not going to improve the 184 yards a game for Penn State passing the ball. But so don't totally know what to do with that. But outside of that, I don't really understand how we got to the point where Penn State is the boogeyman unless it's just the uniform and the situation.
Yeah, I get it. Environment, night game, probably all that stuff plays into it.
What do you think we're walking into? You and I tried to guess momentum. Yeah, we're way off from 2 weeks ago. We thought they may have shot their shot against Indiana. Now they might feel even better.
I've been every time I go there, it's a weird situation, right? Like the Sandusky stuff, the overtime game with Pat Smith. By the way, you could win a cold beverage if you said who kicked that game-winning field goal in State College in overtime. Not many people can just pull out Pat Smith. Shout out Pat Smith. You know, the last time we played there was the Trace McSorley Saquon game where they were pretty much benched at halftime. It was like 30 degrees and raining the whole time. So it's just been weird every time we've been there. So maybe part of me is not surprised that the line's so big. I don't know.
I guess part of it for me too is just like
Pat Smith, that is incredible.
You like that, huh?
I am not surprised though. I spent a lot of time around you.
So I spent the last few weeks rooting for Penn State to get a win, because there's a part of me that says if you're a team that's on an 0-for streak like they were in conference and you're not actually awful, I want you to get a win before you play me.
Right? Everybody's psychology works differently.
Right? Yeah.
You had your thought. Damon and I were in there like, how do we want this Indiana game to finish? And he's like, well, I'm on this side. I was like, well, have you considered this? And so it's like we've got a third.
So in my mind, best case scenario is they would have shot their shot at Indiana, won that game, came back, let down, lose to Michigan State. Their season's over. They get dog walked by Nebraska this week. It didn't quite work out that way, right? Because friggin', Cignetti had to do his stuff, but and Mendoza.
My goodness.
And yeah, and we don't even need to talk about Gus Johnson, but like I think this is a good scenario for Nebraska, that they are no longer in desperation. We can't go 0-for in the conference mode. That's how my brain works, because I've seen it happen, and mostly basketball, if I'm being honest. I've seen it happen too many times in basketball where a team's on like an 8-game conference losing streak, and you're like, they're not going to lose all of them. Like, they're not losing out, right? They're not so bad they're going to lose out. That's how I felt about Penn State. Now that they're not going to lose out, I'm like, all right, right for the picking. Let's go.
Yeah. But I just hope they're not feeling themselves on a night game in State College. Like, it's not going to be a whiteout. It's not going to be the old top 10 matchup, right, with Ohio State and Penn State. But that place does get loud. It holds a lot of people. So I don't know. There's a lot about it that's interesting, because I think Vegas always knows, though, right? Like, rarely do those dudes way wrong. And maybe they're way wrong this week. But I hope Matt Rule's preaching to the guys like, hey, you guys think these guys are 9 points better than you? I don't. So
can I bring something up with that, though? Like, we always say Vegas always knows, and I get that they build the big buildings in the desert.
I've been pretty good against them with big spreads, right?
All I'm saying is professional gamblers exist too. Right? So, like, they can't always know, because they're getting beat by at least a certain percentage.
You see what I mean with his personality?
Yeah.
Like, they're getting beat by a certain percentage of the population on a consistent enough basis that they can build big houses too.
Yeah. Ravi, we're going off a 9-point spread here, though. Like, they make their hay when the lines drop like a half a point. They're like, that's it. I wanted 9 instead of 8, or I wanted 8.5 instead of 7.
Watch where this line ends up. Watch where this line ends up.
I don't think it'll be Nebraska in the minus. So
no, I think it'll be like 6.5.
Really?
Between 6.5 and 7.5. This thing's dropping 2 full points from the open. I would bet that.
Right.
I think the point's still the same, though. Like, Nebraska's not going to go in there thinking they're 6.5 points worse than Penn State, right? Like,
yeah,
I think that's a slight. Look, you're crazy if you don't think Matt Rule's going to turn over every rock to get motivation from his guys. Whether it's,
I think his familiarity will help with the travel logistics too.
Yeah, it's a weird place, middle of nowhere. Yeah, I'm excited for you to see it, Damon.
Oh, geez.
We haven't been there in a long time. It's a weird place, weird vibes.
You've never been there, right?
No. I do have one question, though, B. Are we setting up at night or in the morning?
I'll set up when I get there, like I always do.
Okay. All right.
I like I always do.
Listen, this dude does not – he does not play around.
Ben, can you tell me when you guys are leaving on Friday so that I know whether I need a co-host or not?
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Right,
I'll keep you updated.
I appreciate it. Yeah, whenever you get that email, because I'll get a text like Thursday, be like, "Hey, is Austin doing this show for me tomorrow?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I guess."
What time? We'll probably leave about between 11 and 12:30.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I see us maybe leaving a little earlier just because we're going East Coast.
We're gonna lose the
hour, but that would be my guess.
All right, so I'll plan on needing one on Friday. That'll be fine.
I can't stand you. All right, B. It's been real. Unless there's something else you wanted to get.
No, I just want to ask
your ace buddy about.
I just want to ask if you were enjoying the Ryan Kalkbrenner experience still.
There's not much I'm enjoying about the Hornets season right now, if I'm being honest.
Well, you get Knipple and Kalkbrenner, K2.
Yeah.
They're
It's been well. Those guys have been good. Kalkbrenner, has he missed a shot this year? Like, I think he's like shooting like 92% or something ridiculous. But he also it took him like until like his 12th game to attempt either a free throw or a 3-pointer. So him, Knipple, Melo's cooked. Those ankles are cooked. Yeah, it's not good. We got Colin Sexton leading the charge offensively. Typically, things aren't going to go well.
Hey, since I know you guys are like kindred spirits, what are you guys going to do on December 7th with Creighton and Nebraska play? Both teams could be pretty good.
I know, man. That was a fun 8-minute stretch.
Wasn't that
Oklahoma? 35 points, I think they scored in like 8 minutes. It's just like I'm watching that on TV. I'm like, surely that one's not going to go in. Surely that one's not going to go in. Everything's just splashing down. It was unbelievable.
I remember several Doc Sadler coach games where it wasn't entirely clear.
You try to get to 35.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't entirely clear 35 would be the final score.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick. When we were like lamenting about Nebraska basketball last year, and we talk about all these other sports, especially with the basketball film crew with us, did you get the fact that they were just everybody was kind of like, well, they are missing Rink Mass. You know, Rink Mass is it's critical. Did you get the level of potential from him not playing versus to now early when you see him playing? It's crazy, isn't it?
I've had this same conversation with 2 or 3 different times since then. Like, how could anybody have known how big of a missing piece that was going to be? You got a big man hitting step back 28 footers like it's nothing, right? And then you heard Coach Moser talk about it after the game. Like, how do you guard him, right? He rolls to the basket on a switch. He does the pick and pop. Like,
then he'll post you up.
And then okay, so you close out on him, and then he dishes it to Sanford, who, oh, by the way, he's not bad shooting the ball either. It's just like
he's okay.
When those shots are going in, they're hard to guard. They're really hard to guard.
I may be smart, but end up being smart. I doubt it because it's so early. But I told Ravi the key acquisition was how Lawrence plays the second time around. I hope I'm right because he's off to a decent start.
He is. He's a great kid too. Easy to root for. To see him play the way he did Saturday night was awesome. Man, that was a cool night. Iowa lost. Got to come back and see Nebraska basketball rally from like 14 down. Turned out to be a good day.
Oh.
That is our guy, Ben McLaughlin, Nebraska.
My guy.
He's our guy now because, right, we're kindred spirits, you said.
No, not sharing.
No, that's fine. I don't think it's your choice. Well, I think he gets to choose who he wants to be friends with.
Ben, we'll talk on the plane.
I'll let you guys fight about that when you take the headsets off. Thanks for having me, guys.
I appreciate
it, B.
I appreciate you babysitting DB when I'm not on the clock. I appreciate that.
You bet, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, B.
That's Ben McLaughlin, Husker Radio Network.